Hey everybody, it's Chris, and I want to talk today about a spell that I haven't talked about in a dedicated video before, and I need to because it is a spell that is changing the game. So this is a spell that got massive revision in the 2024 rules, and in the old rules it was a pretty good spell, but in the new rules it is game changing. It is easily, I would say, the best cleric spell for its level. And that spell is Conjure Celestial. So let's look at the spell. So here it is. It's a 7th level spell. So your cleric has to be 13th level before they cast this spell. But when they do, it changes everything. Clerics used to struggle a bit in those mid to high levels in terms of spells versus other spellcasters. Now they have one of the best 7th level spells in the game. I mean, you gotta say Simulacrum is probably the most broken 7th level spell in the game. Though most tables I play at, it gets either house ruled or banned outright. I have played in campaigns where I just don't take Simulacrum because it's a problem. Conjure Celestial, I don't know if it's a problem, but boy, will it put your cleric front and center when they get to level 13. So this is a 7th level spell, 1 action casting time, 90-foot range, creates a 10-foot radius, 40-foot high cylinder of celestial light. It lasts for up to 10 minutes using your concentration, and the way it works is you summon this cylinder of light. It says you conjure the spirit from the upper planes, which manifests as a pillar of light, in a 10-foot radius, 40-foot high cylinder centered on a point within range. Notice it doesn't say on the ground, so therefore you can cast this in the air, so you can hit flying enemies with it. For each creature you can see in the cylinder, choose which of these lights shines on it. Healing light, the target regains hit points equal to 4d12 plus your spellcasting ability modifier, which I gotta think is plus 5, right? If you're 13th level. And Searing Light, the target makes a dexterity saving throw, taking 6d12 radiant damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful one. Until the spell ends, bright light fills the cylinder, and when you move on your turn, you can also move the cylinder up to 30 feet. And I just need to stop there. When you move on your turn, you can move the cylinder. This means that moving the cylinder isn't using an action. It isn't using a bonus action. You can just move it for free when you move. Whenever the cylinder moves into the space of a creature you can see, and whenever a creature you can see enters the cylinder, or ends its turn there, you can bathe it in one of the lights. A creature can be affected by the spell only once per turn. Not once per round, once per turn. Using a higher level spell slot, the healing and damage increase by a d12 for each spell slot level above 7. So I want to talk about how it works and why it is so overwhelmingly powerful. So I'm going to bring up a map here. So this is just an example map. I took it from the appendix of the Dungeon Master's Guide. There's a bunch of example maps, and this one is fairly average. So I put on some enemies, and I put on some PCs, hypothetical PCs. So on the left side, the ones with the red circles around them are our enemies. We got a Lich in the middle, a couple Death Knights. Right, we're level 13, so we're taking on fairly challenging monsters. And then on the right is our PCs, and they're surrounded in green. I figured maybe a bard, maybe a sorcerer, maybe a fighter, and then our cleric. So our cleric is down at the bottom. So on their turn, this is how it works. On their turn, they cast Conjure Celestial. So they're going to put it right there. So right there is a 10-foot radius. Then our cleric moves, and as part of their movement, they move the cylinder. So they're going to go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30. And so here's what happens. Every ally for which the Conjure Celestial moved into their space is going to heal 4d12 plus 5 damage. And every enemy for which the Conjure Celestial moved into their space is going to make a dexterity saving throw, taking 6d12 radiant damage on a failed save, half as much on a successful one. And then on the cleric's following turns, they can just move it again another 30 feet, and they'll hit as many enemies as they can and hit any injured allies they can, and they'll keep doing this round after round. This thing lasts up to 10 minutes. Then, once the combat is over, if any party members are actually still damaged, then it can simply move over them, or they can move into it, and they can heal some more. Another thing that can happen is, so let's say we've put this Celestial right here, and then we moved it down 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And then, our Bard just took a bunch of damage. Well, on their turn, the Bard can move 5, 10, 15, 20, moves in, and they now take the healing. Now, they can only heal once on that turn, but again, it's not once per round, so they can heal more than once in a round. Then they probably want to move out of it, because what can happen then is maybe on their turn, the fighter decides that they're going to use one of their attacks and grapple the Bard, and then they pull them in, and the Bard will heal again. So the Bard could heal several times on the same turn. How much healing does this do, and how much damage does this do? Because this is where this spell becomes the most powerful cleric spell there is. So the amount of damage this thing does in a turn, let's say we hit all 3 of these enemies on our turn. The amount of damage it does is equivalent to approximately if we cast a 5th level fireball at them. That's how much. Every single round. So the next round when we do it again, another 5th level fireball. Next round when we do it again, another 5th level fireball. If we move it out of their space and then somebody else pushes them in, another 5th level fireball. All right. And the healing is the same as if you cast Mass Cure Wounds every round. Okay. And that's if they heal once on their round. If they heal twice on the round, it's twice as much as a Mass Cure Wounds. Now, it would be fair to say, and some of you are probably thinking it right now, yeah, but Mass Cure Wounds is not concentration, and Fireball is not concentration, and this is concentration. So how does it compare to concentration spells? And that is a fair question. So let's discuss that. How does it compare to concentration spells? Well, gotta be the most well-known cleric spell there is, Spirit Guardians. Spirit Guardians has a very similar effect in regards to dealing damage to enemies. If we wanted to do the same damage with Spirit Guardians that we would do with this spell, and I'm going to assume that it doesn't matter whether we're targeting dexterity saves or wisdom saves, though it's arguable that at higher levels, targeting dexterity saves is superior. But let's go ahead and make the assumption that it doesn't matter. They both do radiant damage, so the damage type doesn't matter. How much damage do they do compared to each other? Well, if you were to cast Spirit Guardians at 9th level, it would do a little bit more damage than the Conjure Celestial. If you were to cast Spirit Guardians at 8th level, it would do less damage than this 7th level spell. All right, so this is out-damaging Spirit Guardians cast at the same level by quite a bit, and out-damaging Spirit Guardians until it's cast at 9th level. And when creatures take damage is the same as Spirit Guardians. When you move it into their space, they take damage, just like Spirit Guardians. If they get moved into it, they take damage, just like Spirit Guardians. If they end their turn there, they take damage, just like Spirit Guardians. And what about the healing? Well, the healing, if we wanted to do concentration healing, I guess the most well-known spell would be Aura Vitality. That's a 3rd level spell. Lasts for 1 minute, and it heals 2d6 per round. So if we were to, say, heal 2 allies with this, it would take Aura Vitality 9 rounds to heal the same amount of damage. And that's every single turn and potentially multiple times per turn. So this is by far the most healing that a cleric can do. I mean, if you have the time, it heals more than a mass heal 9th level spell, and it delivers all this damage on top of it. It occurred to me editing this video, I should mention that Life Clerics, of course, at 17th level, roll maximum automatically on healing. Most clerics would be healing 31 per ally per instance of healing. A life cleric at 17th level would be healing 53 hit points per instance of healing. And you really have the best of both worlds. You have probably the cleric's best damage spell and the cleric's best healing spell, both at the same time, lasting for 10 minutes. And because it lasts for 10 minutes, it's reasonable. In a number of adventures, you should be able to use this for multiple combats. Now, you want to keep your concentration safe because you would not want to lose your 7th level spell. I will say that you can upcast it with your 8th or 9th level slot. Might even be worth your 9th level slot with a cleric. And it does an additional D12 healing and damage, both of them, to every single target every single time it occurs. So, yeah, this is a extremely potent cleric spell that it just Conjure Celestial was a decent spell before, but now it is just god tier. And if you want to do the most blasting damage when you are 13th level, it is very likely that this will outdamage anything your sorcerers or wizards are doing. Furthermore, although sorcerers and wizards might be able to exclude their allies from the damaging effects, here you're not only excluding them from the damaging effects, you're healing them instead by massive amounts. So Cleric did very, very well in 2024, and one of the standouts is when they get to 13th level and they can get this spell. Now, before we wrap up, I do want to talk about the wording just a little bit, because there's one bit here that I don't think it's super clear how it works, but I think I know. So it says, you conjure the spirit from the upper planes, it appears. For each creature you see in the cylinder, choose which of the light shines on it. Until the spell ends, bright light fills the cylinder, and when you move on your turn, you can also move the cylinder up to 30 feet. Up to now, it actually hasn't told us when the healing light or searing light occur. So whenever the cylinder moves into a space of a creature you can see, and whenever a creature you can see enters the cylinder or ends its turn there, you can bathe it in one of the lights. Notice it doesn't say when you cast a spell or when the cylinder first appears. However, this sentence right here suggests to me that we're choosing these effects as soon as we cast a spell. So there are two ways to read this. The first is, if we were to cast Conjure Celestial and then have it appear here and then move it 30 feet, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, then all three enemies would take the damage, and then the three bottom PCs would all heal damage, but the bard would not heal damage because it appeared in the bard's space and it never moved into the bard's space. The other way to read it is that as soon as you cast a spell right now, the bard and the sorcerer are healing damage. And so they've already healed their damage for this turn. I think that reading makes more sense to me. But either way you read it, this is going to be an extremely effective spell. And it's not the end of the world if it's read the more restrictive way, because you can just put the spell somewhere where it's not in anybody's effect, and then move it where it needs to go on the turn that you cast a spell. All right, so that is Conjure Celestial, and I just want to take a moment here to thank my patrons, because without their support, I would not be able to do this job. So today I want to thank my mage level patrons. So thank you to Mr. Wonderful, Babrak, DMG, John D, Darren Williams, Descarpus9, El Conquistadorito, Avengi R, Phoenix, Hatap, John Wayne, Joseph Robideau, Wu Carl Kong, Moxie, Nemo, Paul Suzak, Phantasmagoria Prime, Phil Sokolov, Prometheo NTG, Big Chungus, Robert Riley, Shane and Todd Beyond, Simon Jester, Earshine, The Fantastic Emporium, Tyler Thorstrom, and Wade. Thank you all so much for your support. And until next time, I'm going to sit back, relax, and have some fun. D&D is for everyone. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.